One of the remarkable consequences of people doing the best they can is that even when they're very different tastes, different incomes, they all end up the same at the margin when they face the same prices. Here, for instance, we begin with someone whose indifference map looks a little different than the usual indifference maps we draw, where everything is symmetric around the 45-degree line. If we assume again that shirts cost $10 and pants cost $20, the budget constraint for this consumer will then have a slope of -2, the opportunity cost of pants in terms of shirts. This consumer will then do the best that she can on her blue indifference curve at the point where her marginal rate of substitution is equal to the slope of the budget constraint. For her, this means buying lots of shirts and very few pants. While our first consumer had indifference curves that were sort of leaning towards the vertical axis, our second consumer has indifference curves that are sort of leaning towards the horizontal axis. The two consumers therefore have very different tastes and are therefore very different to begin with. We'll also assume that our second consumer is not nearly as rich as our first consumer, which implies that her budget constraint lies closer to the origin. But because the two consumers face the same prices, both budget constraints have the same slopes. The slope of a budget constraint is, after all, just determined as the ratio of the prices of the two goods. Our second consumer then does the best that she can on her magenta indifference curve at the point where the marginal rate of substitution is once again equal to the slope of the budget constraint. So here we have two consumers that are very different. They have different tastes and they also have different incomes. But they go to the same store and they face the same prices. And because they face the same prices, they do the best they can at bundles where their marginal rate of substitution is equal to the ratio of those prices. And because of that, they end up looking very much the same on the margin. That is to say, at the bundle at which they do the best they can, their marginal rates of substitution are the same, which implies that when they leave the store, they're willing to trade pants for shirts at exactly the same rates, despite all of their differences.